Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for buying both my stepchildren each a Switch, instead of giving the second one to my nephews? My wife asked me to post this here cause it's causing a rift in our family. I've, 35 male, been with my wife, 38 female, for 5 years now and married for 1. She has 2 kids, 11 female and 8 male, from her ex who has 0 involvement since 8 male was born, and probably never will. I love them so much, they're my babies now, and I'm in the process of making it legal. Last year was tough on my older brother and sister-in-law, both 40, because they were both laid off, but so were my wife and I. I do however, have a side hustle that because of the pandemic, boomed, so we are pretty stable now financially, not rich by any means mind you. They both work odd jobs and we've helped them every now and then with groceries and the occasional rent. They have 3 boys, 12 twins and 9. Because of this, my wife and I decided to host Christmas at our house and invite them, my mother, older sister and her daughter. Since everyone except for us were struggling, I handled the gifts and gave my nephews some stuff like shoes, clothes, some toys etc., while my niece got a $100 gift card. I spent anywhere between $100 to $150 per kid, and got both my children similar stuff. Everyone seemed happy and I was glad to help. Well, after they left, I gave my kids their other gifts because I didn't want to do it in front of my niece and nephews. I got both my kids Nintendo Switches, they like different games, so it doesn't make sense to only have one. Last weekend, my brother dropped his boys over for a sleepover, and obviously, they got to enjoy my kids' games. Everything was fine till I got a call Monday morning from my brother, who was angry that I was apparently spoiling my kids too much, and making his kids feel jealous. He said I should have given the second Switch to his kids, instead of giving mine one each. He told me that I should have considered their financial status before buying such luxuries for kids that aren't mine. This pissed me off, and we got into a screaming match till my wife calmed me down. This is where I might be the a-hole. My mother called me yesterday, and asked me what the fight between me and my brother was about, and she told me that while my brother was wrong for saying my kids aren't mine, I probably should have considered the fact that they can't afford anything at the moment, hence, why I bought his kids essentials as gifts, and I should have dialed down on the gifts I gave my children, or bought his kids something similar too so they won't get jealous. I know I could have got my kids a Switch to share between them, but their taste in games are very different, and I wanted my children to have something nice since they've both been good this year. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you were very considerate by giving them the Switches once they left, and not in front of others. Now, your brother is being greedy and trying to free ride off of you. Not to mention, those aren't his kids, and you also aren't responsible for his kids as well. Right. R/entitled parents much? Not the a-hole, you did what was right. You waited until his family left. Your brother shouldn't be projecting his poor feelings about himself onto you, and your mother should have stayed out of it. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Not the a-hole. By your brother's own logic, you should not have given a Switch to your nephews, because they're not your kids either. You are not responsible for your brother's financial status. You were more than generous with your entire family and have done nothing wrong. Brother will make the argument that his kids are OP's flesh and blood, whereas his stepkids are not. Brother is an a-hole. Those are OP's kids whether he likes it or not. He can take care of his own kids. I should be used to it by now because I've read so many stories on this site, but the entitlement and audacity of people still takes me by surprise at times. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-husband my child support obligations are over? My 39 female ex-husband and I have been divorced for the last 13 years. I gave up custody of my daughter during the divorce, and have been sending over child support checks until May of 2020, when my daughter turned 18. My daughter is a quadriplegic, and has been since she was 5. Her dad lost his job around 14 years ago, so for the first 2 years after our divorce, the child support me and my then new husband sent over was what helped them survive. My checks have never been late, but I now have 2 kids with my current husband, aged 12 and 8. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the entirety of our marriage, so it's been my husband being kind enough to pay for a child that's not his. When my daughter turned 18, I talked to her and basically wished her and my ex-husband luck in whatever they chose to do in the future. I get a call from my ex-husband saying that my daughter wanted to start college in fall of 2021. The college they picked was the best in the state for students with disabilities, but that my ex-husband couldn't foot the tuition alone. He said that our daughter couldn't do any of the student jobs available, and said if I wanted to do right by my first kid, I should help foot the bill. I was talking to my ex on speakerphone, and my current husband interjected and said that was all his money, and he has done everything to help me meet my legal obligation, but that's done now. I told my husband that our daughter is now a legal adult, and I had covered her expenses when she needed a lot of medical attention at ages 6 and 7, and that we were only a bit older than her when we were already parents. I told him that I had already done right by our child, and that college isn't a necessity. I wished them the best of luck in looking into possible other scholarships and grants, and said I had 2 other kids that needed me. Am I the a-hole for fulfilling all my legal obligations, and telling my ex that his 18-year-old is an adult now? Now for the top comments. Wow. You just washed your hands of your child, didn't you? You're the a-hole. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like OP, A, left her daughter as soon as her daughter became quadriplegic, B, has provided minimal financial support as a mother and for some reason thinks that's sufficient, and C, that her 2 able-bodied kids should take precedence just because? Not the a-hole to your ex-husband, but very much you're the a-hole in regards to how you've treated your child. Guess you moved on to your real children and real family, and just left her in the dust, huh? No, you didn't do right by your child because you sent her money until she was 18. Doing the math, you gave up custody right around when she became quadriplegic. Doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. You've been a terrible parent. Am I the a-hole for fulfilling all my legal obligations and telling my ex that his 18-year-old is an adult now? OP doesn't consider her daughter her child anymore. You're the a-hole. So, if I'm reading this timeline right, you walked out on your kid right around when she became quadriplegic. That's undeniably terrible. You're the a-hole for that. As it relates to supporting her after 18, you're right, you covered your legal obligations. Damn, didn't spot that. You're completely right, OP is a truly awful person. That poor child. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying that I am glad my first baby died? I used to be in a very toxic relationship, partially my own fault because I was pathetic. A shy pushover who was too timid to have or voice out my own opinion. I viewed my ex-boyfriend as a strong and dependable person, and he could decide everything for us. When I got pregnant, I was scared and did not know what to do. I was not ready to have a baby and I turned to my ex, who told me that we should keep it, and he would take care of the both of us so I had nothing to worry about. Despite that I was still very stressed, not eating nor sleeping well, on top of the stress of hiding my pregnancy from my family and friends. I was to live with my ex, and avoid them until the baby arrived, in fear that they would see me differently. Now come to think of it, that was extremely immature and stupid thing to do. Anyway, things did not go well and I miscarried, almost died too because of how weak I was, and it was then I realized how much support my friends and family could provide me with. My ex was devastated with the loss, and even though he did not blame me for it, we broke up shortly afterwards as I moved back with my parents. Life from then on only got better. As of now, 9 years later, I am a happy wife of an amazing man, and mother of 2 lovely sons. We were in a family reunion a few weeks ago, when my sister-in-law brought up about my miscarried baby as she is a friend of my ex. Feeling that I have nothing to hide or be ashamed of, I told the whole family that I am glad that my first baby did not live. If it had lived and was born, I would not have been able to properly take care of it, and would not have broken up with my ex whom I realize by now is an abusive a-hole. It got a little awkward, but my husband managed to change the topic. A few days later on, my sister-in-law posted a long status saying that she could not believe that someone would be happy that her child had died, and that the general assumption that mothers love their children was a lie, something like that. It was deleted later. My name was not mentioned, but I knew that she meant me. My husband had an argument with sister-in-law, saying she is stirring up something for no reason, and she later deleted the status, but not before I read many comments agreeing with her. I guess that maybe I should not have said that as it may be a sensitive topic. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. There might have been a different way to word it, but not the a-hole. Sister-in-law is an a-hole though. You were in an abusive/toxic relationship that physically sickened you while you were pregnant. You didn't intentionally kill your child. From what you posted, their death was a direct result of the physical state of your body, which was a direct result of the relationship, and the extremes that you felt like and were forced to go to. You're not the a-hole OP, don't let anyone ever tell you that you are. Seems like sister-in-law willfully missed the nuance, in that neither OP nor her first child are trapped in a toxic environment. Not the a-hole. I don't understand why your sister-in-law would think it was acceptable to bring that up in front of others. But it is the kind of thing that's probably best not said aloud in a group situation, because it sounds worse than it is and could easily be misconstrued. Sister-in-law is friends with the OP's abusive ex and 9 years on, clearly feels that the OP was somehow responsible for the bad relationship. Not the a-hole. They do not get to gatekeep how a woman should feel about a pregnancy and or miscarriage, especially when it isn't theirs. Your sister-in-law was way out of line and your husband did the right thing. Try to put those people out of your mind. Your feelings are not wrong and it's okay to be happy your life didn't go down that road. Honestly, terminations exist too. Lots of people know they aren't ready for children and do what they think is best to be more stable. OP is just glad she could get her life on track, instead of being forced to take on such a large responsibility. Not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for allowing my brothers to call me dad? Due to some unfortunate circumstances, I, 27 male, wound up adopting my two brothers, 11 and 7, a little over a year ago. It was difficult, but we're doing well now. A few months ago, I picked them up from school and oldest called me dad, and sort of gave me the, please don't say anything eyes. When we got home, he explained that he told all his friends I was his dad, because it was easier to explain. Youngest admitted he did it too. I told them it was fine, and as time has progressed, it's gotten to the point where they call me dad all the time now. It's quite euphoric really. Their therapists had some concerns, but it's all sorted now. Anyway, we finally had a meet up with our other siblings, and their families, at which point one of my boys naturally called me dad. My older brother, 29, got sort of twitchy, but nothing was said. Most of my siblings agreed to end the meetup early and we went home. I thought it was because our other siblings didn't really talk to the younger two. Most of them had started their own families and didn't talk to our dad much, and some of them weren't actually aware he'd had a second kid with his new girl. That wasn't the issue, and the mentioned older brother unboxed me, basically calling me cruel for pretending to be their father and trying to replace our dad, and then proceeded to make out that our dad was this great guy, which is freaking hilarious considering they all hated him before he died. Anyway, it caused a pretty big fight between me and him, where I tried to explain that they called me dad off their own backs, and I'm not going to deny them that comfort. He basically said I was manipulative, and got our other siblings involved, who mostly agreed that the boys shouldn't call me dad, because it was unfair. My younger sister even had the guts to say it's not fair that they get to have a dad when the rest of them don't, which is frankly disgusting. I blocked most of them and refused to force my boys to call me anything they don't want to. Am I the a-hole? For anyone who may ask, explaining our family tree is too complicated, but Dad had a hell of a lot of affairs. He has 27 bio children that I'm aware of. Not the a-hole. Your brothers calling you dad isn't harming anyone. It makes them comfortable and their lives easier. Going off this post, you're more of a dad to them than their father ever was. That's very true. I feel like I did most of their parenting honestly. He wasn't an awful dad, although I might be biased. He just had no idea what he was doing. And very clearly has no idea what a condom is. Not the a-hole. If the boys' therapists don't have an issue with it, and you don't, and the boys don't, everyone else can bug off. It's not your fault your dad couldn't keep it in his pants, nor is it your fault he died before your sibs grew up, and it's definitely not your fault he was a horrible dad. You may have some fun explaining when their future partners enter the picture, but that's a long way down the line. Not gonna lie, I feel like I've had way more women hit on me now that the kids call me dad. So, win-win. But jokes aside, I love them and I just want them to be comfortable, you know? Add a cute doggo to the mix, and you're going to be golden with the ladies. All jokes aside, those boys are lucky to have such a kind and mature older brother that was happy to take them in. You know, they've been asking for a dog for a while now. Maybe this is a sign. But thank you lol. I do love my boys. Not the a-hole. And 27 bio children? No wonder your dad is hated. I loved him and was his only child, bar the two boys, who actively wanted to see him. My mother was mostly absent though, so he always wound up taking me with him to his next stop, which is probably why we got along so much more. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.